Hi there, welcome back to Science Fiction. My name is Salim and as always, I'm joined by my friend and co-host, Carl Ames. Carl, how's it going?
I'm doing good, and good evening to you. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm good. I am been reading mostly comic books. As I told you, I signed up for Marvel Unlimited. So I've been just going through that stuff, and I'm finally fully healthy. Like I don't have even a little bit of a cough or anything. All of that is gone, and I've been working from home, so I've been avoiding large crowds for the most part. So unnecessarily going. I'm not going anywhere unnecessarily. I should say. Like I'm not like terrified of going anywhere. I'm just avoiding doing that. How about you? What's new with you?
Just not a whole lot. I've been not doing much, but working on some more figure stuff and just getting ready for. I played a little video games. I've been playing Persona 5 Strikers. Here it is. I've been playing a little bit of Persona 5 Strikers.
Nice.
But other than that, just kind of relaxing and taking one day at a time.
Nice. I was, what's funny? You talk about video games. I don't play video games at all, but I was thinking about buying. I can't remember if it was Xbox or it was PlayStation, but like people have talked about that Spider-Man game so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like
you gotta do it.
just for that game, it'd be like the most like unreasonable purchase. That's not
really, honestly. It's honestly
for
not.
Me it would be because that'd be like the only thing I'd probably play, and then I would never use the system.
But
again.
There's another Spider-Man game coming out, and there's people that make that Spider-Man game are making a Wolverine game.
Oh, okay.
I guess yeah. There you go. And there's Batman games too.
Yeah, I'm mostly what I like about those games is I like the storylines. I guess. That's mostly what I like about these. I don't really care about. Like I probably would play it on like super easy mode and just so I can get to the storyline. That's the only thing I care about. Like I don't care about a challenge.
No shame in that game. No shame whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what interests me. Just especially with the being on the comic side. That's what I used to do when I had like even the Xbox. I had the Xbox One, and I had a bunch of like comic book games and stuff like that where I should just kind of go through the storyline because it was pretty cool. Another thing I did want to ask you just randomly is something I thought of. This is something I watch off and on Disney Plus. Like we've talked about like the X97 X-Men or the 90s X-Men, 90s Spider-Man. Did you ever get into X-Men Evolution?
I watched it for the first time last year. I did not watch it when I was a kid, but I did watch it on Disney Plus last year for the first time.
Did you like it?
I spent almost my entire life hating on that show, thinking it was a piece of garbage, and that's why I never watched it. And I decided to give it a chance, and surprisingly liked it a lot more than I thought I would. And I would say it's actually a pretty good show, especially the ending. Yeah, I like the way it ended.
Right. So I always liked the show, But I thought I was a very minority in that, like, kind of like I thought, like for the most part, a lot of people hated it because it was like
Hmm.
so different than, um, like what the X Men's are even in the comics, like in a sense of,
Yeah.
uh, like the characters in there, how they're found and all that kind of thing. But I mean, there's some similarities in there, like they show Rogue and Nightcrawler being brother and sister through Mystique, and then obviously Scott and Jean are together, but they're like children, they're not adults. Obviously Wolverine is an adult in that, and so forth. But I was interested in that because like I was looking, I was just doing random research online, and I was like, oh, apparently it's like a cult,
Yeah,
like
it has
fan
actually a
favorite.
pretty good cult following, and that's one of the reasons why I never completely dismissed it, because I know like a lot of people liked it. I just never gave it a shot, especially like I said as a kid, because it wasn't the original, the animated series. I wanted more
Right,
of
right,
that. So when the evolution came, because it was like a year apart from the cancellation of the original series to evolution, so I was just basically bitter about it, and I never went and watched it. But I like as a huge Jean Grey Phoenix fan, I think that version of her character on Evolution is the best depiction of her outside of comics, including the movies. Like
right.
X-Men Evolution is the best depiction of Jean Grey. And that's even better than the animated series. Because as much as I love the animated series, Jean Grey and a lot of great dialogue, one-liners from Phoenix and the Phoenix Saga on there and stuff. Um, she really didn't do anything on that series outside of the Phoenix Saga. She was a background character. She was a terrible support character. She didn't do much. She didn't appear much. But in Evolution, she was an important character and she had a lot of growth. So I was super into that.
Yeah, like I said, that the storylines were really good. They were like well built. That they didn't have like a lot of continuity. They didn't have like continuity errors. They would
Right. Yeah, that too.
right, right. They would. There was a good show. Like I was, and like I watch it. I often rewatch it, like just because I really like enjoy it, and it also brings back like that early 2000 nostalgia because that show has like a lot of early 2000 like vibes.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I was just curious at like what your thoughts are. Like like I said, I was just randomly looking one day online about the show just because I wanted to see if people had thoughts on it. And I was like, oh wow, this is actually really popular. Apparently, it's not like it was just me liking it like as one of the few people that liked something. I thought for the most part it was hated by people, but apparently not. So,
Oh, yeah.
um,
Wolverine and the X-Men is another one if you haven't
yeah,
checked that
that's
out.
a yep, that's
Uh,
excellent, and I'm so mad they didn't do a season two for that.
that is because of specifically that's when Marvel bought Disney. Like right
Uh,
when season one ended and there was like in between seasons is when Marvel bought Disney. So that's when Disney said, okay, we're going to do everything in because everything was done outside of Marvel at that time. So Disney was like, okay, we're doing everything in house. So they axed Wolverine, the X-Men, Spectacular Spider-Man, Avengers, Earth Mightiest Heroes, and whatever else was going on animation side. They just killed it all and then started all over. So, because again,
right.
Spectacular Spider-Man is a really good series as well,
Hmm.
and Avengers: Earth Mightiest Heroes is also great. I just watched that again last year as well, just because, and it feels weird because it had two seasons and it ended with this like completely open-ended, like not even like a series finale or a season finale type of episode. It's just like another episode, and then it was over with, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Avengers Earth Mighty Hero has one of my favorite intros. It's a song. I love that song. You can like jam out to that song.
Yeah, it's pretty good, pretty good.
I
I
like
like
I
Spectacular
like it.
Spider-Man song. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. It's those shows were really good, man. I don't want to keep dwelling on this because we're gonna keep talking and
I'm getting
we're gonna change.
sad.
We're sad, and then we're gonna change the topic of our show today. We'll get into that our show. So we're gonna be talking about Moon Knight. The new trailer dropped. The Oscar Isaac led Moon Knight show, and obviously that's gonna be on Disney Plus. And then we're going to give our thoughts finally on Hawkeye. Um, but there is a trailer obviously for Moon Knight. So what we'll do is we will play the trailer first, just in case if anyone has not seen it yet.
Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake.
I have a sleeping disorder. I can't tell the difference between my waking life and dreams.
Hello, and welcome to Staying Awake.
I think I'm losing it.
Real catch you are. You're bloody useless, Stevie.
Stephen. I can't tell the difference between life and dreams.
Thank you.
Lost the contact lens.
Hope you find it.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're alive. What's wrong with you, Mark?
Why did you call me Mark? It must be very difficult. The voice in your head. Shut up! There's chaos in you. Embrace the chaos.
So that's the trailer, and it looks really badass. um, yeah, it was. I really, it got me hyped. Obviously, Oscar Isaac is a great actor. So the fact that they got him to do it, and before we start recording, we're talking about this. Looks like it's going to be pretty like dark. I mean, as dark as they can take it on Disney Plus, because obviously they want to keep it below a rated R or above or below, how you would describe that.
PG-13.
Yeah, they want to keep it PG-13 at the most. So, but still, I mean, the tone of this show is pretty dark, and I'm sure it's still going to be some scenes in it that could be like, cautiously watch. You know, if you have children, might get scared. But yeah, it looks really good. Those are my initial thoughts on the trailer itself. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, same here. Is I want to know how much they're gonna push like that line, like get to that line of PG-13 or rated R with the violence, because Moon Knight is a very violent character. Um, but this is a Disney Plus show. This is a MCU continuity type of thing going on here. So it's not going to be like Deadpool. It's not going to be like Netflix, Daredevil,
Yeah,
or The Punisher. So I want to know, because this would be a preview of that type of show. Like, we're going to get Daredevil on Netflix, at some point, or excuse me, on Disney Plus at some point. So this could be what that would look like in the future. So I'm pretty excited, and this is coming at the end of March, so we don't have to wait terribly long. Although we are in a little bit of a drought with comic book
right.
content on Disney Plus, and even on the DC side, we have whatchamacallit, Peacemaker. But other than that, there's not much else going on until March. So I'm pretty excited. I'm glad it's something on the way, and then got a whole new year of what's Phase 4 stuff coming up. But as far as Mark Spector, Moon Knight goes, I think he's a pretty overlooked character. He has like a pretty good fan following, but is still relatively small. So this will be uh, a good opportunity to get his name and his face, get Moon Knight out there, and gain some new fans.
Right. I just want to list some of his powers here so people understand what he is, and then we'll get into like some of the stills and stuff that we noticed, and we wanted
You know,
to
real quick,
explore.
Salim, I just want to address one of the comments in the chat.
Oh, okay.
We have King Pookie Nation asked about our thoughts on Book of Boba Fett, which I have not watched, and I'm not sure. Salim, have you watched any of it?
I have not watched it yet. I will. I will watch it at some point soon. I'm gonna try to. I'm gonna start watching Peacemaker as well. Excuse me, and then I'm gonna go through Book of Boba Fett as well. And I never finished Mandalorian, so I don't know how important that is to Book of
No
Boba Fett.
idea.
I like Star Wars, but I never got like I watched the movies, but I never got into like the other stuff because I know Star Wars kind of the popularity of it, like with comic books and other storylines and things like that. I never really got that deep into it. I have a friend that really, my friend Colin, he is huge on Star Wars, so he really gets into all of that stuff. Maybe if we talk about it, we'll bring him on because he'll be a good wealth of knowledge on that show. But yeah, Book of Boba Fett, I will check out, and I'm sure we will talk about that at some point
Yeah.
in the show. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm not
so
much of a. So, I'm sorry, I'm not much of a Star Wars person, so I'm not.
right,
I haven't watched it. I don't have any plans of watching that. I haven't even watched The Mandalorian at all. Um, my Star Wars knowledge is Episode 1 through, I guess, The Last Jedi. I watched that in theaters, and that was enough for me to say, okay, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore.
right,
I don't want to pretend. Heck, I only watched episodes 1 through 6 a month before what's the Force Awakens came out. So I watched those because I bought the Blu-ray set of all 6 movies and watched them before Force Awakens, and that's about it. I like a Force Awakens, but
right.
other than that, I am not a Star Wars person. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Right. So yeah. So getting into Moon Knight, this is powers. So, again, before we were recording, we were talking about how I read the one of the comic books that he first appears in, and which we'll talk about later in the show or a little bit later here. And I guess you were saying he was you were telling me he was only introduced as a character that wasn't supposed to really be back, I guess.
Mhm.
And they described his, like, in the comic book what he does, like, so formerly his powers were like increased strength, speed, endurance depending on the lunar cycle, and then currently, like, I guess his powers are I don't know if they're addition to this because I haven't read a lot of Moon Knight, like I said, but they're expert detective, proficient in martial arts and armed combat, and then utilizes high tech equipment. So I mean that's pretty much Batman, but I digress.
Mhm.
But yeah, he has, and obviously he has other things with him that makes him different than Batman, just because he has some stuff going on that we will talk about here. But yeah, those are his powers as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, so I mean, his powers, like you did mention, they are fueled by the phases of the moon. So he's at his most
Right.
powerful when there's a full moon, and then he's at his weakest when the moon is completely blocked, or maybe like an eclipse or something like that. But for the most part, he can go from being just at an Olympic level athlete, still an average person, can't really do a whole lot of, physical things, but still better than your average person. Then at a full
Right.
moon, he could probably, lift a car over his head, and he's really fast. He's got a regenerative healing factor, and so on. And that's, you know, basically where the werewolf by night part is coming into play because of the full moon. But we'll get back to that. I'm Sir Mav in chat. I'm new to Star Wars. Where do I start? Don't know where to tell you. Sorry, buddy.
I would guess maybe just the movies. Like start with like episode 3, 4, and 5, and then go to 1, 2, and 3 the prequels, or no? What are they?
It would
How
be
is
4,
that
5, and
order?
6. Yeah, it would be 4,
So
5,
4,
and
5,
6.
and 6. Yes,
Mhm.
4, 5, and 6 are the first original ones, and then 1, 2, and 3 they released like in the early 2000s or something like that with
Yeah.
Hayden Christensen, and then they have newer ones that came out last two movies. Well, they also had like not related to the Star Wars necessarily, but there was like Solo and
Yeah.
um, that. I mean, I guess you can watch it, but I guess that's what I
Rogue
would
One.
say. Yeah, Rogue One. Those weren't necessarily related to Star Wars itself. Those are kind of side off movies um that apparently people said they didn't like. I think
I think people like
so.
Rogue One. I just
Yeah, Rogue One
and I
Solo.
saw
I
I
think.
saw yeah, Solo people didn't like. I didn't see that one. I won't say that I've seen Rogue One because I did go to the IMAX to go
Mhm.
watch it, and I like immediately fell asleep, and I woke up like within I woke up in the last 30 minutes. The last 30 minutes of Rogue One was awesome, but I don't remember a darn thing about anything before that. I fell asleep immediately.
Yeah, so I would say that I would say start with the movies, and then go from there. Like I said, they have like seven or no 8 total movies. So of just the Star Wars angle, not the other side stuff.
Mhm.
So I would recommend starting from there.
All
Um,
right, so let's get back into Moon Knight. We were talking about so one thing about Moon Knight is that yes, he gets a lot of Batman comparisons. And I think that's on the surface that if you are just casual, that is an easy way to explain what Moon Knight is or what type of character he is. He is not, I wouldn't call him Marvel's Batman, but yes, they have similarities. They do, Batman has the Batarang and Moon Knight has crescents, moon crescents,
right.
and he throws those. He has martial arts abilities. They like punching people in the face a lot. They jump off of building tops and glide down. They can't fly. They don't, you know, Batman doesn't have powers, but Moon Knight does. He gets his abilities from Khonshu, which we'll get into. But I think one of the most notable things is his personalities. So Moon Knight has multiple personalities that you will see manifest at any given point. And that is not something that he necessarily can control. Sometimes he can, and that's one thing that I want to see. I'm not an expert on Moon Knight, but I remember playing a game uh, where he was a playable character, and some of the way they use his abilities is that his powers manifested through using like Captain America's abilities and then Spider-Man's abilities and Wolverine's abilities. And sometimes you can control them, and sometimes they would just change on their own and you just have to deal with it. So I don't know if that's going to be how they have this MCU Moon Knight be, if that's the way the comics are. But his personalities do have names. So for the most part, there are 4 of them. You have Mark Spector, that is like your basic, a guy. He is the Marine, the former Marine. He's a mercenary, and that is supposed to be maybe how his true identity. That's kind of the whole point of this, or while we're questioning everything, and even he questions it. He doesn't know if he's actually Mark Spector or is he Jake Lockley. Jake Lockley in the comics is a cab driver. He uses this personality because, surprisingly enough, if you didn't know, cab drivers, they hear a lot of weird things, and people tell their cab drivers way too much information. I, as someone as a rideshare driver, have heard many conversations that I probably shouldn't have heard, and people need to keep their business to themselves. But they just love talking to me, even though I don't ask them anything at all, and they just tell me their whole life story. So being a cab driver is a great way to keep your ear on the streets and find out what's going on and get confessions and things out of that. People. So he has this personality as a cab driver. Then he has another personality, Stephen Grant, that is a millionaire in the comic books. But we see in this trailer doesn't necessarily mean that the Stephen Grant's going to be a millionaire because he's like working at this museum. So I don't know if that maybe he is or he isn't, or they're just changing that up, but it is still a personality. And then the Moon Knight persona as well is considered a separate personality. So that's 4. And there is a more recent one in the comics, Mr. Knight. That's one it's kind of like a separate personality of Moon Knight. He's just more he usually wears like a suit instead of the whole the costume. Like he actually wears like a blazer and a tie and like all white masks and things like that. But that is a newer personality, so there's still a lot to explore with that. And although you have that first picture, you can go ahead and put that one up. In the trailer, he states he has a sleeping disorder. Like that's like the first words that he's saying. He has a sleeping disorder, and you can't tell the difference between his waking life and dreams, because every time he's switching from personality to personality, it feels like a dream, because he can't really remember his actions as one personality to another, so they just feel like dreams. So at least that's the way that they're explaining it for this MCU. And I actually really like this shot here, because you can see, Mark Spector, or is it Jake Lockley, or is it Stephen Grant? Either way, you still see 3 people there, and one of them's walking away and the other 2 are watching him. And this is like, these are the 3 personalities. One is walking away while the other 2 are watching him walk away. And it's just a great way of reflecting the 3 different personalities within him. And even like at the beginning of this trailer, they have him with the Rubik's Cube, which is just another way of just visually hinting at his changing in personality as the Rubik's Cube changes colors, and every time you just shift sides and things like that. So I really I like seeing that.
Also, it could be kind of a hint at like a puzzle, like he's like a puzzle he's trying to solve himself, like symbolism of that regards.
Right. And I'm actually curious on why. We'll see why he tied himself to the bed, or maybe someone else did, because I can't quite like just, so this is it. This is why he did that. I have no idea. So
Yeah,
maybe
I wonder if
he's feeling it's going crazy or something like that, and he just didn't want to do. I don't
right.
know.
I wonder the portion of the tying the bed is probably like a dream though, because like there's sand around.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, there's sand around. So maybe he's like dreaming about being in, because he's obviously a ex-Marine, right? So mercenary, and maybe he's had a dream. He's dreaming about being in, like, in the desert or something like that, when at war, and then he kind of comes back into his regular life, and he's getting in and out, and that notices. I just noticed that there's sand there. It's like, that's odd. That's why there's sand around a bed. But yeah, I just noticed that.
Yeah, and another thing about his personalities, which I didn't do like a deep dive on this research, but I remember, and it could be misremembering, but like I said, I think he can't remember one personality's history or like events or things like that from another, so much that just like here in this shot, he's actually switching personalities in the middle of the day, like in the middle of a very intense moment where he was brutally probably beating someone up and shooting them and stuff, and then all of a sudden he's like, why am I holding a gun and there's a bunch of blood on me? I don't know what's happened. It's just like, what was going on here? So he's just switched personalities right in the middle of this intense scene. And I think I remember even seeing or hearing that there was like one of his personalities had a kid, and like a child, and he's sitting with his wife, and then they were just all of a sudden switch personalities, and now he's wondering like, who is this kid and who is this woman? Why am I sitting here? Sort of thing. Like, I don't understand, because all of his his personalities are such a strong change that he just doesn't remember or doesn't know even like the kids of his other personalities. It's like, who's the father? Not me. Like, what do you mean? Like, you were just sitting here, that sort of thing. But I think that's one real big difference between him and Batman, because that's not something you get out of Batman.
Right.
All right, so let's go ahead and then so we've already kind of talked about it. So Moon Knight does get his powers from a god named Khonshu. And we do get to see Khonshu a little bit in the trailer, so it's just like a real quick flash of him. But that's the guy on the right here. This is skeleton slash like bird skull sort of thing, and then the picture on the left is what Khonshu looks like in the comic books. Um, yeah, and it's pretty. I'm actually surprised that they're going for something so comic accurate for Khonshu. And one thing about Khonshu is, yes, he is the moon god, or he may not be the moon god, but sometimes he is. It's more of a thing that goes back and forth in the comics. He's considered like an elder god, one of the oldest gods in the MCU. So like well, off the top of your head, what are some elder gods, Salim? I can't think of them other than like
Did you say Ra? Ra is the sun god, right?
I haven't talked about him yet. No.
Anubis.
Well, I guess
I forget what he is. Oh, the underworld, right, or something?
No,
death or something like that.
I don't know if those are elder gods because I'm thinking because there's a sky fathers. I think Anubis is a sky father, like Zeus and Odin, and then elder gods are a little bit older. So I believe like Chthon would be an elder god, and because Chthon is like the god of chaos, so that's like Scarlet Witch stuff. Okay, and then maybe Shumagarath. I'm not 100% sure. I know we just talked about him last week too. I think he might be an elder god or something. I don't
remember my ancient history, ancient Egyptian history. You kind of put me on the spot there. Yeah, it's been a while. I think I took one course in college, and that was like a long time ago. And I think I did okay. I got an A in it, but like it was. It was cramming. It was cramming. It was kind of just cramming a bunch of stuff that I definitely would not remember. Like, when you just kind of cram a bunch of stuff to remember and then you forget the next day type of thing. Yeah. It's like you're not really studying for like the long-term memory. There's some things you remember, but like for the most part, you forget everything.
But yeah, so he is supposed to be an elder god. But sometimes they do skirt the line of whether or not he is or isn't. And also, one thing about Moon Knight is that he gets all of his orders and his directives from Khonshu. Sometimes, I should say, his personalities are so much so that he actually sometimes imagines conversations with Khonshu and getting directions from Khonshu that don't actually happen. So he'll like think he's being directed by Khonshu and he never actually talked to them. And also there's also a debate, because again, it's another thing they've played around with in the comic books of his personalities, which I will go into a little bit more in a second here. Actually, you know what? Let's just read this whole thing. So there's this write-up I'm reading directly off of like the Marvel fandom wiki, which is relatively reliable. About his personality. So I'm just going to read straight off of here, and this will give you a better idea of how complex his personalities are. It says Moon Knight can be best characterized by his relationship with Khonshu and whether or not that is derived from his own mental illness or from actual divine inspiration. When Mark Spector first awakened at the foot of Khonshu's statue, it was ambiguous whether his survival was truly Khonshu's doing or if Spector merely attributed it to the moon god. Later stories introduced Khonshu as an undeniably real god, employing Moon Knight as his agent. Subsequent takes on Moon Knight would attempt to walk back the revelation that Khonshu was real, once again questioning whether the drive to be the Moon Knight of vengeance was all in Spector's head. Presently, it seems as if Mark Spector is both mentally ill and an agent of higher power. Khonshu does exist and has chosen Mark as his avatar, but Mark's mental illness sometimes causes him to experience conversations with a Khonshu that is only in his mind, not with the actual god. There's Also, discrepancies over whether Mark Spector was already schizophrenic or dissociative from an early age, making him a convenient host for Khonshu, or if Khonshu imposed this mental condition on Mark. Khonshu is a god of multiple facets, and Mark Spector has taken on multiple identities in the past in order to properly represent all aspects of his god. This includes his original alter ego of Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley, and Moon Knight, and representations of Captain America, Wolverine, and Spider-Man communicating with him, or his recent set of identities and attire like Mr. Knight. Unlike most superheroes, Moon Knight is willing to brutally hurt and maim his opponents, and sometimes has even killed his enemies, as seen by his ripping of the face of Raoul Bushman or carving crescents in his victims' foreheads. So there you go. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. So he's he's definitely a hardcore character, and I guess that also kind of separates him from Batman, because Batman doesn't necessarily cross that line. He won't. I mean, he'll beat up people, but he won't kill them. And
Definitely won't carve. Well, didn't didn't in Batman v Superman, didn't that Batman, he branded his people, the
that's
criminals?
true. That was like a future. That's correct. Yeah, that was a future Batman.
That is a
where he
Snyderverse
Yeah.
Batman.
Right. Well, yeah, and so in Batman Returns, a comic book, he's kind of older. He's like old man, and he's kind of just like, enough of this shit, and he goes a little extreme. He that's the one where he nukes Superman with kryptonite and beats the shit out of him. Yeah.
Wasn't that fun back when before that came out, and people who just didn't read comic books actually thought that Superman was going to win that fight?
Yeah,
Like-
it's funny. Like, I mean, people like I mean, like, it's funny, there's like a whole, so you have your Batman fandom people, and then you have your Superman fandom people, and they all like, they hate Batman because Batman's arrogant, and Batman's a recluse. He's kind of like, does his own thing. And then there's the people that Batman who hate Superman, and then they always say, and really he wouldn't win, he wouldn't beat Superman. It's like, well, you know what, he probably would, just simply because Batman is psychotic, and all Batman does research, and he's like has all the time in the world. He's super rich, so all he does is like looks into things, and he would discover all the different things. He already knows who Superman is for real life, and his secret identity. He's found that out. And all these different things. So he knows every little weakness about him, and that's how he would beat him. So like Superman, like Batman, obviously, then he wouldn't necessarily fight him just as Batman, But yeah, anyways, we're getting off topic again.
That's all right. We got the next picture here. We have what may be a picture of Werewolf by Night. It could be. And remember, we were just mentioning Anubis, and this figure that Moon Knight's beating up on the ground is kind of Anubis looking. If there was a different frame that I captured, like you see his face a little bit more. It's kind of a very long snout, so that's very much in line with an Anubis type of look. But it could be Werewolf by Night as well. I mean, the skin tone is something more of that brownish color. We don't know yet. We didn't get a great look, and then Marvel hasn't said anything. So could it be? It could not be. And why is that important is really more of the question, because Werewolf by Night is a character that had a Marvel comic book. He was a hero, and Moon Knight made his first appearance in Marvel Comics in a Werewolf by Night. That is the comic right there on the screen, his Moon Knight's first appearance. And as we alluded to a little bit earlier, Moon Knight was the villain of this story, and the Werewolf by Night was hero because it was his comic book. It was really meant to be a one-off type of thing where they just throw in a random villain character to fight Werewolf by Night, and then that would have been it. And they didn't have a whole lot of backstory. And you said you just read that one recently, Salim?
Right, yeah. So they do kind of talk about him being like a mercenary, like he was a, they talk about his in the armed forces, like him being a marine, and he has all this background as a hired mercenary and all that different stuff. Um, and he did just hire him, and he's kind of like, they just hire him to go after this. This is a group that hires him to go after them, get him, essentially. And that's what he does. He's gone after Werewolf by Night to bring him in, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So later on, we would see, because of people, because this is back when the 70s, I believe, when this comic came out.
Right.
No internet message boards, no Twitter, no things like that. So the way they gauge a character's popularity was the write-in column, and you had to write in a letter, and it took weeks or months before that even got feedback on
Mm-hmm.
how people felt. But over time, they realized that people really liked the Moon Knight character, and they brought him back to have future comics and expand upon his character. And they switched him from being a villain to being more of an anti-hero / hero
Right.
character. And his
Early
popularity took off.
random cool thing about this comic book, not related necessarily to the storyline, but I was reading it on the Marvel's Unlimited app, and it's cool because they leave everything, like like the little advertisements between pages, like
Yeah.
the old advertisement. You can mail in your offer and you can get this, or they have different little comics, just like as as like an interlude of the storyline. It was really cool. It's like, man, this is like so like super old school. Like a lot of these other comic books, like when you read them, especially like all these other things, they'll remove those things just because they're trying to just have you read the comic itself. Like a lot of the digital uploads, that is.
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
saying.
it's
Because like I was weird hearing you saying that, because you're doing the unlimited. I don't do unlimited, but I do own digital comics, um, like through Comixology. So I actually
Mhm.
own the comic as opposed to the subscription. But there are no ads. Like, just none.
Right,
You
right.
just
And
keep on
it's
clicking
really
through.
cool. I was reading this and I was like, oh, this is so cool. They have like the old school, like the little ads in the comic
That's
books, like
cool.
try to, make kids want to have their parents buy them stuff.
Have you come across any Combo Man ads?
I don't remember. Maybe I may have skipped through it because I was trying to read the comic really quick. I'll have to go back and see if that was in there.
I just it's one of my, like, when I think about old comics from the 90s, Combo Man is always like the first thing I think about. You
Nice.
know what that is?
I do not. I do not.
So you know what combos are, the snack.
Oh, right, right, yeah. Oh, okay, okay.
So combos, they were just advertising for combos, but Combo Man was their like comic book character that was an amalgamation of every comic book character from Marvel and DC. Was it just Marvel? It might have been just Marvel, but it might have been DC too. So we just have like Silver Surfer's feet, and then Cyclops is, just this part of Cyclops, and then the Hulk here on the hair, and then the jaw of Iron Man, and then just the shoulder part for Doctor Strange, and then just this chest of Wolverine. And it's just this combination of going all the way down to make this whole character, but it's just like made up of 10-20 characters.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's funny. I was just saying, not to like, it was just cool reading that. I was like, oh man, this is like
Mhm.
so old school. Like you're reading like the little, in between um the ads and stuff that they have where you can do your mail in offers and request things. But yeah, that's fun.
All right, go ahead. And then we have Ethan Hawke showing up in this series, and you got more
Right.
information on that.
Yeah. So Ethan Hawke plays a character named Arthur Harrow. So in the comics, in the Marvel comics, Doctor Harrow is not a big character. He was in his like one appearance in the comics, he is a candidate like for like the Nobel Prize in medicine. But his work is involved in conducting World War II Nazi experiments on people. So he's like, yeah, he's not a good guy in the comics. that character at least. And like he's disfigured, so he's trying to cure his own disfigurement. But like looking at obviously Ethan Hawke here in the trailer, I don't. I'm imagining they've changed his character around a little bit and made him into something else entirely. But it was interesting just that I noticed that like obviously MCU we've talked about plenty of times in the past. They do their own thing and they do add their own flavor to characters. They may make characters bigger than they were in the comics or add a different storyline about them that was not in the comics because obviously it's its own universe. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting that he's not based off of any big character part of the Moon Knight series. He's like a small character that not really somebody that that was worth remembering, but they're obviously bringing him in here.
Yeah, Moon Knight does not have a very impressive rogues gallery.
Right.
Pretty much no one is. I mean, none of that. There's the only, like as I mentioned, Bushman. That's the only run of comic books that I've actually read of Moon Knight was that what I was describing. He cut off his face. I read those, and that was I don't know, mid 2000s, something like that. Because I don't remember. I think maybe it was Warren Ellis that wrote those. I'm not 100% sure. I just know David Finch was the artist because that was when David Finch was like hot and drawing everything at that time, like New Avengers. And then he jumped on the Moon Knight, and that's why everyone was reading Moon Knight. But other than that, I have not read any Moon Knight. So it was maybe like 5-6 issues under my belt of Moon Knight. Super cool stuff, but just not a whole lot drawing me there personally. And then his rogues gallery of villains, other than Bushman, I don't know any of his villains, and I don't know if any of them are even like at the level of being like a threat to the greater Marvel universe. Like I have no idea. So I'd imagine, as much as I know about Marvel and villains, that they're probably small time or just not even that big of a deal. But that can all look a lot different when on Disney Plus and given an MCU treatment and glow up. So we'll see how that changes.
Right. And the other thing I'm interested, not that it's been like it's not like anyone has really talked about it, it's a complete rumor, but I wonder if they'll hint something about like Blade, because they both have a lot of similar like supernatural backgrounds, and obviously MCU is starting to go bring that side of Marvel out. So it's interesting. Like obviously we saw Blade in the end of Eternals, telling Black Knight to are you sure you want to touch that or go there, Dr. Whitman, or whatever he says to him. I can't remember the exact line. But yeah, that part is interesting. I think, like I said, there was a small rumor that he might be teased in the show. Like I don't know if he'll actually come up, but it'll be interesting. And then the other thing I'm curious about, like in this trailer, they have him, fully suited up. I'm wondering if it's gonna be like the final episode. They're, like since this is like an origin show.
They'll do it like a Daredevil season 1.
Yeah, and in that sense, he doesn't fully, become Moon Knight until like episode they normally do like 6 episodes. So episode like 6 will be where he's like these 2 stills where he's beating the crap out of either like maybe Werewolf by Night or whoever that is, and then him turning around, and then the jumping and the buildings when he's jumping at night and from one building to the other. That's interesting. I'm wondering if that's going to be like episode 5 or 6 or something like that he turns into the full Moon Knight character. But yeah, that's Moon Knight. That's going to be I think it's going to be a really fun show. It looks like it's going to potentially to be great. Just obviously they went and got like, really good actors, and looks like they've put, good amount of work into the show. So I'm excited about it. And, whenever there's new Marvel content or MCU content or even comic book content in general, I get hyped about it, and I get all in. I'm always all in on those things. But yeah, we'll move on here now. We obviously Hawkeye has been out for a while. We watched it. We've talked about it and tidbits here and there just because it was connected to other things. So we wanted to bring it up. But yeah, we have our full thoughts on the show. So what we'll do is first I'll let Carlich start off. Like, what did you think of the series overall? Like, how did you like what MCU did with the Hawkeye storyline and with Kate Bishop, their relationship, and how passing of the torch, if you will, and all that.
I enjoyed the show a lot. I thought it was something that we needed for Hawkeye's character in general. I was just thinking just the other day how, like, if anyone doesn't realize it, Hawkeye erasure is very present in not just the movies and TV show, but just like in all things that have been since the Avengers movie. Like they even not even that, just then because even including the Avengers movie, because he's been a very core Avenger for a very 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 long time, and like very important. Sure, he doesn't have powers. Sure, he doesn't have a bunch of gadgets. Just shoots arrows and stuff. But he's had so much personality, been such a great character, and such an important character to not just Black Widow, but just all of the Avengers. And seeing his representation, honestly, I didn't really like it much in the Avengers movie. And then it wasn't until Age of Ultron that he felt like a character, and it gave him some backstory. And we get to see more of that in this series, seeing his family, seeing especially since then, how much they've grown since Age of Ultron, since Avengers Infinity War and Endgame and so on. Just getting that opportunity to really explore this character, seeing the hearing aid, seeing the trick arrows, seeing the backstory with his wife, just a little bit there, getting into just even the throwback to the Avengers movie with Kate basically being across the street and seeing his heroic jump off of the building and swinging into the lower parts. Just retconning that in there was a great way to introduce Kate. Like, yeah, she's been a fangirl of him this entire time. And I really, really enjoyed Kate Bishop in the series in general. I thought she was just a great new character, super fun. The overall direction of the series was great because it had a really good mix of comedy and action. I love that because like all of these Disney Plus shows have been very different from each other. Between WandaVision and Winter Soldier and Loki and stuff. Yeah, they all have their funny things, but they are still approaching those comedy bits differently, and they're approaching their actions a lot differently, and they all feel tonally different from each other. And I really like the approach of Hawkeye, especially in particular how Kate, like one of my favorite things about it, like early in the series, when they were all tied up, and one of the tracksuit guys was talking about how he was having trouble with his girlfriend, and she gives him advice on how to handle it, and then
Right.
at the end of the season, that guy is like about to kill her, and then it was like, but you know what, you really helped me out. And then they just start like having this side conversation about his girlfriend again, and it's like, oh yeah, that really worked out for you, and I'm glad, it's good to hear. Like they're like catching up, like they were old buddies and stuff. And it's just like a really fun way to express Kate's character, as well as just how silly the tracksuits are, just all of the different things, and of course Yelena showing up, the Black Widow connection. Overall, I thought Yelena and Kate, that their chemistry was awesome. It was super fun. I'd love to see more of them, so I hope that they interact more in the future in Avengers movies or whatever they plan on doing with them. Um, yeah, I thought it was a really fun series and something very needed for Hawkeye.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. I thought it was a really good show. They did a really good job as far as um, balancing the storyline, especially like you said with the humor and action, developing more of his character, like the little things, like you mentioned, the hearing aid. In the comics, that's something big part of who he is. Like he has a hearing aid, um, and they never talk about it in that throughout this that he's kind of lost his hearing, and that's something that he deals with when he's on the field, and that's something that's kind of that he has to work through. He's not somebody that like like I guess they kind of show that he doesn't know like sign language and things like that. Really, it's not he knows it, but he's not. It's not like a strong suit for him. Um, and then the I really like them showing the cutoff scene when Kate Bishop's a little girl and she's the first attack on New York happens in the middle. She's like dead set in the middle of it. Her parents and her place, like their house that they live in or the tower that they live in, is dead center of where everything's happening. And the explosion happens, and then she goes outside where her side of her building's like half blown up off, and she sees Hawkeye. That one scene when he's battling the Shatari, and he jumps off the roof, and then he comes back and pulls the arrow. They show that, and that's when she kind of becomes a huge, like you said, a huge fan of his, and then she explains why she became a huge fan of his, because he was just he didn't have superpowers like the rest of the Avengers, but she saw how he in the biggest, most dangerous moment was able to still just hold his own, and he didn't run away from the battle. Like he could easily run away. He's a guy with a bow and arrow. What's he gonna do, right?
Hmm.
Against all these like things. But yeah, that was really cool. And then I liked the slowly character development of other characters like Echo. Obviously, they're gonna dwell into her more with her own series she'll have. But yeah, they did. I thought that was really neat. They did a really good job with her. And then and then obviously with them bringing back like Kingpin, which we'll get into, that huge. You and I both are huge Daredevil fans as far as the not only the comic but like the series, the Marvel series on Netflix that they had. So that's really exciting that they're potentially, obviously we already know they're bringing back Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio. We'll see if they bring back all the other characters, Deborah Anwell, right? That's her.
Deborah Ann Wall. Hmm.
Well, um, and then I forget his name, but he's a child actor. He was in the Mighty Duck movies.
Yeah, I don't remember his name, but he played Foggy.
Foggy Nelson, and then all the stuff like that. So it'll be interesting if they bring all those guys back. I hope they do. But yeah, and just like it's little things. As I was watching the show. I watched it I watched it twice. So I watched it once, and then I went back and rewatched it, just because I like to see if there's anything that I'll miss, and doing research on it just to confirm like some of the things that I noticed when I'm going back, and a couple of Easter eggs that I did want to point out on in regards to the show. So when we first meet Kate, like as an adult or a 22-year-old, I guess, yeah, that's an adult. She's doing that little thing where she's trying to knock down the bell by hitting it with her bow and arrow. It was kind of cool that they had a throwback to Iron Man, the first Iron Man, the bad guy in there, Obadiah Stane. The tower is named after him, Stane Tower. So if you throw on that picture, so that's the first picture, and then the second one, that's the tower. Sorry, that she's trying to bell on the top that she's trying to knock down, and then the second picture with showing Stain Tower. It was interesting. Like, if you remember back to Iron Man 1, it makes sense why they have this thing that's named after him there, because the Shield kind of did a cover up. So no one knows that guy, what he did, right? Like Obadiah, they don't know that he was a, you know, the general public, I should say, doesn't know that he was, he did some, corrupt stuff, and he tried to have Iron Man or Tony Stark killed and all that stuff. So it was interesting. It was a nice little throwback that they just brought that up in the show. And then the next one, it was interesting here for me because they kind of made a twist on his character. It was in the comics is Jacques. Is it Du Kwanz? Jacques,
Yeah.
is it Jacques?
Yeah.
Okay, Jacques Du Kwanz. The secret identity of the he's a villain in the comics books named the Swordsman. So in this comics, he's like a former mentor of a Hawkeye, who uses his sword fighting skills for like criminal activities. He does later become a superhero and a part of the Avengers. But like I said, like the way he starts out in the comics, he has he's a connection to Hawkeye, not connection to Kate Bishop. So that's interesting that they went that route. Another thing I noticed is, remember, there's a connection here with Spider-Man No Way Home and Hawkeye, the show as well. When the next clip where you see Yelena wants to go visit New York, and she talks about Natasha's death and all that stuff, and she brings up how she wants to maybe go visit the new and improved Statue of Liberty. At that moment, we're confused. What the hell are you talking about? Like, it's like, what is she talking about? But when Spider-Man No Way Home, we find out, they added that big cap shield to the Statue of Liberty. So that was kind of neat, and that's what she kind of meant in that regards. That was pretty cool to see there. And then finally getting into the Kingpin, I liked, they did a little twist on who the Kingpin is in here a little bit, like as far as his, he was a little bit more colorful outfit, and it's directly actually from the comic book. In one of the comic books, the comic book that he wears this is actually a Spider-Man comic book that he wears that in, and he so if you I'll go back to the last clip or picture. Yeah, so that's from a Spider-Man comic book called Spider-Man called Family Business. It's pretty decently new. I think it's like 2014, I want to say that came out. But yeah, that outfit is directly from that. But it was interesting that he had it in this show. And then lastly, the Echo shooting Kingpin, and again, that's also straight from the comics as well. So they show her, in the end, having the gun pointed at him, and then he shoots her, or she shoots him, and it's a big gap. There's a big question mark. What may have happened to him? He's not going to be dead. In the comics, he doesn't die. He goes blind from it, essentially. But it'll be interesting to see what damage they show in here. I'm guessing they just wanted to keep it to the comic book and make it sense. So I'm guessing he's going to be back in Echo, and obviously the rumors are that the Daredevil cast might be part of Echo as well, because again, there's a lot of connection with Echo and Daredevil.
Right, yeah. Echo has a pretty strong history with the Daredevil character and Kingpin, and hopefully we'll see that within the next year or so. Because they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't started shooting it, but maybe they should be working on that soon. Because our next series again is Moon Knight, so. But we definitely will see more Kingpin after everything. And that final episode that he took, he got shot by an arrow straight in the chest by Kate Bishop, and then plowed by a car into a building through a wall, and then got another explosive arrow on that, and then gets shot and presumably in the face. I think he probably will be okay. So, uh, but just based on all of that, and then just the fact that bringing in Vincent D'Onofrio specifically for this Netflix uh, crossover, there's no way they would kill him off after appearing in one episode and never use him again.
Yeah,
So
that'd be like
yeah,
that is just not gonna happen. He's too like good of an actor to just come in for one episode and do that and then just let him never come back. They brought him back for a reason, and he's gonna be. We'll see like how much he's gonna be part of MCU going forward. Like maybe just the Echo series. I'm kind of hoping that he'll be in Spider-Man somehow.
I would love to see that. Yeah.
That I would love to see like just like him, like them going back to a lot of like the neighborhood, like him fighting a lot of like the mafias and stuff like that on like the Magia, Hammerhead, maybe the Enforcers, stuff like that. That'd be kind of cool. Like I think that would be cool because they haven't done anything like that in any of the other Spider-Man movies. They've all had him fight like obviously superheroes, and you can obviously introduce other, elements that eventually go into that aspect because obviously they have the symbiote somewhere running around. Who knows? Who knows what will happen in that regards? But yeah, it would be kind of cool if they kind of did stuff like that where he's just fighting like protecting the neighborhood from these gangs and as opposed to doing like the major stuff right away again. That'd be cool, I think, in my
Right,
opinion.
and there would be even a good way to introduce Scorpion because, like, was in the comics, it was J. Jonah Jameson that is
Yeah,
responsible for
correct,
making Scorpion,
correct.
but in this case, since he doesn't, since Jameson doesn't, well, he still hates Spider-Man, but he's still kind of relatively new to the MCU, and who knows what kind of resources this new Jameson has. But shoehorning in Kingpin as I have a spider problem, I want you to deal with it, and then creating the Scorpion to kill the spider would be at least it's acceptable to me to go in that direction and have him like Spider-Man dealing with gangs and stuff like that. Kingpin notices this issue. He's busting all of his stuff, and he's not making any money. Then he creates the Scorpion, and then they fight, and boom, there you go. There's Spider-Man 4. Marvel, hire me, but
Yeah.
this Spider-Man 4, and then save the symbiote for Spider-Man 5 or something like that.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, we don't
You
need to
can
do it
get
right
into
away.
right, exactly. I want to see him in his regular Spider-Man costume. I want to
Mhm.
see a whole movie of him being regular, average Joe, hard hat Spider-Man. I want to see at least one movie like that with in the MCU, that I should say. But before we wrap up here, David had a question for us. It says, "Do you guys think Marvel will introduce Adam Warlock? I keep hearing he is a very powerful character." So yes, they will. They're planning on it. I don't know if David, if you watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2, um, I don't want to if I want to spoil it, but there's hints in there. I don't want to tell when that and what exactly it is. I don't want to spoil that for you, David, if you haven't seen it yet. Maybe you want to go watch it.
Well, it's already been
But
cast, so like that's not
well,
a
I
spoiler.
guess. Well, I mean, well,
And we
how it
already covered it too on
happened.
this on here too.
Well,
It's not a
maybe
spoiler. Yeah,
David
yeah.
didn't notice that all. Then I mean, it's yeah, but he is going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He's appearing. He is a very strong character. It's funny you mentioned that. So we've talked about this in the past, but he in the comics, he's the one who has the Soul Stone. In his instead of Vision having this the stone in his head or whatever, not the Soul Stone. Sorry, the
This
what
is
stone
also
is that?
this
Is
is
it the
all
Soul Stone?
or
Okay.
for Warlock, yeah. For
Well,
Vision, he
maybe for
had
the
the
world,
Mind Stone.
the Mind Stone, yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, the role that Vision plays in Infinity War is technically like it's supposed to be Adam Warlock, essentially, in a sense, not exactly,
Yeah.
but loosely. But like I said, he is supposed to be. He's a big. Actually, it's funny because Adam Warlock is a big part of the Infinity Gauntlet. He's the one who like orchestrates the attack against Thanos to try to beat take the gauntlet away from him essentially. So, but yeah, he is going to be, and yeah, David, you're right. There is a post credits scene where they do like a teaser where they said, "I'm going to call him Adam," because he's making him or whatever. But yeah, they did cast him. I forget his name too, the actor's name, but he looks like he
Walter, I believe. Yeah.
right. I think he was in We're the Millers, right? That one movie with Sudeikis. I think that's the movie called We're the Millers or something like
I
that.
don't know.
I don't remember. I can't remember the name. It's like Jennifer Aniston, um, uh, Jason Sudeikis, and someone else I can't remember. But yeah, it should be interesting what they do with Adam Warlock, because like I say, you're 100% right. He's a very strong character, and there is definitely a lot of stuff they can do with him going forward. And he can. I'm assuming, because obviously, what's his name? David Bautista does not want to be in the MCU anymore. Drax will be gone, so I'm assuming they'll replace Guardians to different characters, and obviously Warlock will probably join Guardians of the Galaxy. If they do a fourth movie, who knows? If they probably just do like a Disney Plus thing, or just have him being part of different, just do a Adam Warlock movie on his own. Maybe they do something like that, because he is a popular enough character amongst at least comic book readers that they could probably do a Adam Warlock movie and do well with it, I would think. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But that's pretty much a wrap for today's episode. Did you have any final thoughts, Carl?
Yeah, actually, while we're talking about Disney Plus and Guardians and stuff, and a little bit of going back to Werewolf by Night. So they actually are going to have a Disney Plus special this year on Halloween with Werewolf by Night. So most likely he is going to be in this show for Moon Knight. Whether or not that's him getting beat up on the floor, we don't know, but he is going to be having his Halloween special on Disney Plus this year, 2022. So we will see Werewolf by Night for sure, whether or not in this series or the next. And then there is another Disney Plus special for the holiday season 2022, so around Christmas, that will be featuring Groot of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So we will see a Christmas special with Groot, and that will
Right.
be a direct segue into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as well. So whether or not Warlock shows up in that, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be just Groot and no one else. But it will be a segue to Guardians 3, which should be coming out in 2023. Other than that, what else is coming? We got Doctor Strange coming in May, and who knows about Black Panther at this point.
April will be, if they don't postpone it again, it will be Morbius.
Yeah, Morbius, that's right. And then Black Panther is still supposed to come out in the summer, but we'll see, because they kind of got a lot of things going on there. And
Yeah, it's just been mostly rumors too. It's not been anything like oh, this for sure. There's problems and we might have to change things.
well, the
There's
only
nothing.
there's been the problem of they haven't filmed with Letitia Wright in 5 months. They just started filming again because she had an onset
Okay.
injury, so she just came
Right.
back from that
Right.
injury, and then the rest of the stuff is just rumors. But so I don't know if they're going to make that release date over the summer, or maybe they push it back a little bit more. But then Thor, the next Thor movie, is coming as well this year, Love and Thunder, and I think that's it.
All right.
I think it's Black Panther, Thor, Doctor Strange, and Morbius.
Yeah, for Marvel, and the Batman comes out in March as well.
Batman comes out in March, and Aquaman might be coming out later this year. I'm not 100% sure. The next Aquaman movie, and then whatever they're doing with Batgirl, which we could have talked about a little bit today. Maybe we'll talk about it next week, because they did show her costume for this Batgirl movie that's coming out soon. I guess they're filming it now, possibly. But I think that's it. You got anything else you want to bring up?
Not really. Yeah, that's about it. I think you mentioned Aquaman. That's supposed to be December
Okay.
2022. So that's end of the year. That's when it's supposed to come out. And I don't think they've changed that at all. That I don't believe they've changed anything in that regards.
Oh, isn't
Um,
Black Adam coming this year too? I
is
think
it?
that's it.
I don't.
I think that's what I was yeah, go ahead, look it up. I think that's what I was thinking about. I was missing.
Black Adam on July. Yeah, July 2022. So yeah, in
Yeah.
7 months, 6 months, it will be out. Yeah, that's a summer. That's a summer blockbuster.
Hell, we'll
So yeah,
probably see a Super Bowl trailer for that. I
yeah,
wouldn't be
maybe.
surprised. I wouldn't be surprised because that's definitely an audience you want to try to capture if it's only going to come out 5 months later. They should have a trailer by now.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. There's always comic book stuff coming out, and I know a lot of people get angry about it, but I don't because I love comic books. So I'll watch everything comic book related
It's a
forever.
culture now, so yeah, it's totally like I said. That's all I watch. I don't watch anything else. So there's enough content out there that I can just watch comic book stuff only and not have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, exactly. But yep, that's a wrap for today's episode. Obviously, please check out any previous episode that you may have missed on the Barroom Network. You can check out on the YouTube channel. We have various shows that we've done, especially if there's things visuals that you may miss. It's helpful instead of just listening to on the podcast side. But obviously, if you can't watch us on YouTube, you can find us on our podcast platforms, major and minor podcast platforms, and check out all our other shows that we do covering Chicago sports. I know recently the Crosstown with Vinny, um, he had a interviewed Liam Hendricks. That was pretty cool. So that should be a fun show that you guys should definitely check out. And yeah, that's a wrap. So for Salim Suddaralla and for Carl Ames, thank you for tuning in. You guys have a great night.
All right, see you guys later.